5 a.m. Getting after it before it gets hot. And it's already hot in here. Alright. Camshafts today. Big thick climber manual. Got my coffee, ready to go. So, good morning. It is, I don't know what time it is. It's still early. Anyway, getting this thing apart. And in here we have the goods. So, as I've mentioned, they are Andrew Zen 4 cams, and these are supposed to be like a bolt-in type cam. So, should be a good performance upgrade, maybe like for the mid-range and whatnot. The customer's not out for like an all-out race bike or anything like that. But went ahead and got a new side cover gasket, new lifters. These things are freaking pricey, man. And then obviously the cams themselves. So I went through a Hammer Performance on this one, and the reason I did that is because I've used them before, but also they just provide a wealth of information on their website. How-to articles and people that give away information that could potentially take business away from them. I really value that because they're just helping others free of cost, and I think that's really awesome. So I kind of went with a setup they recommended that we can upgrade in the future, potentially with like ported heads, which would be probably the next logical step on this because it does have stock 883 heads on it with a smaller chamber. So this would be a good upgrade we can do now, do cams and lifters, and then down the road, you know, ported heads, bigger valves with a hardened push rod in it. So I think that'd be a good solid upgrade, and then from there, you know, it's always a snowball. Anyway, I'm gonna keep taking this thing apart, kind of get these unpackaged, and start soaking the lifters, and go from there. Alright guys, so we're ready for final assembly here. You saw I went ahead and cleaned the cam gears off of their shipping oil and just got those things ready, so they're clean, they're ready to go. I've already installed the number 2 cam and put the cover back on, tightened it, rolled the engine over, make sure there's no binding, so check the lash there. And then now we're ready to go ahead with the final install. So I'll show you, hopefully the camera can pick it up with the timing marks. I'll show you how that's done. And what you're going to be looking for is an alignment basically with a series of dots on the cam. So what you want to do first, and mine's going to be a little bit tricky here. What you want to do first is get your engine aligned with the dot, or with your crankshaft. Now there's a little groove right there. I doubt you'll be able to see, but that's going to be lining up with my number 2 cam, and there's 3 dots on this thing. Alright, so here's 1, 2, and 3. Now the number 2, okay, that's where we want to align it. So you got to think, if this groove is aiming straight at that hole there, the slot for the cam, that's going to line it up. So this is what we're going to be doing first. Now this one, I got unlucky with the crown of this nut is actually in the way of me sliding this out in the exact right way. But you can see here, they'll still line up like that. So I can just basically like roll the engine back at that point. So got it installed. I'm going to go ahead and rotate the engine backwards. We'll get it lined up how it needs to be. Okay, that one's installed. Now this is going to be a little bit of a weird process right now. I'm going to go ahead and look for the number 1 cam. Okay, so here's my number 1 cam. And the problem I'm going to have is this gear has to go behind that gear. So I have to basically rotate the engine just a little bit, pull this out, remember the orientation here. Let's see, now here's our dot. So if you remember, this dot, when it's going to align, it's going to be angled straight, like in the center line of your next cam. So I'm going to rotate the engine, and then I'll remember where this orientation is, if it's up or down about a tooth, okay? And then I'll insert the number 1 cam to match that. Alright, so I should be able to remove that cam, and it's going to be down about a tooth. So let me just check that I got the right cam here real quick. So number 3, number 1, alright. So basically, we're going to be rotated down about 1 tooth. And we'll be able to test fit this. So go ahead, put a little oil on this. Oops. Okay, so that's lined up there. I'm going to go down about a tooth. Okay. Reinstall my number 2 cam. So I got my notch there. Hopefully my notch there. I'm going to rotate a little bit. Go the other way here. Alright, so those line up. See my groove there. And you can see my dots line up here. I don't know which way that's easier to see. Alright. Follow the same process on number 3. Again, this would be a lot easier if this nut was spun just a little ways in any direction here. Okay. So we're going to try not to disturb our number 1 cam. We're going to go ahead and pull out number 2. Okay. We got a number 3 cam. There's actually 2 dots on this one. Okay. And what we're looking for is our dual dot pointing towards number 4. Okay. Got that set in there. We'll go back for our number 2 cam. We might just have it. We might just have it. And I'm just bumping the back wheel in like 5th gear. We might have it. Alright, so we got our dots. Slot here. Okay. And we have our marks lined up on the number 2 to number 3 cam. And then from here, it gets a little easier, finally. Go ahead and toss in our number 4. This one's obviously pretty straightforward here. There's going to be one series of dots. Go in like that. Alright? Clear as mud, right? Again, this would be really straightforward if that dang nut was just rotated one way or the other, but it's just I can't get this gear out when it's interfering like that. So anyway, go ahead and put a little oil on the gears here. Go ahead and start putting this thing back together, get the cover on, and then I'm going to go ahead and try to check the lash through the hole there. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and just put the original gasket back on because it's already compressed. That way I don't have to mess up a new one in case it does not fit absolutely correct. Bolts here. All right, so we're checking the camshaft end play within the cover here to make sure we're within spec. So what I've done is I've taken apart my my feeler gauges, and I've chosen the minimum threshold and the maximum threshold. So as long as we're within this window, we're good. So this is a little tricky. You have to actually, I have to look down through the head here, and you got to get down in here very carefully with a screwdriver. Push the cam over to the cover, and then because it's so far down here, I had to disconnect these and actually reach down in the best you can and get in between. So we're good on the minimum, and we'll check the max. Basically it's a go no go at this point. I cannot get it in there. Which is good. I would look for number 4 cam. Same process. And I'm not putting hardly any pressure on this. Don't want to scar the cam up. I'll tell you what, this is a really exciting view. I'm looking down this hole here with my left eye. My right eye is on the camera mic. Using my left hand with a feeler gauge. Alright. Double check these. We are good across the board. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and pull this cover back off, recheck the timing because I've rotated it over, and I just want to recheck that all the marks line up. Pull the cover, check the timing, and then I will install the correct new gasket, reinstall everything, torque it to spec, and then check that clearance yet again because you can't be too careful here. Alright, cover's off. Rotated the engine again, and all of my lines are aligning. There's a better shot of kind of what you're looking at here. So. Cover's going back on. Alright, now we can just torque this 80 to 100 inch-pounds. Real simple, just crisscross pattern on this. Got to start in the middle. Alright, we're good here. Now that the cover is actually torqued and we should have that gasket compressed, I'm going to go ahead and just reconfirm, check our minimums here on the side, on the lash. Of course the train blows its horn right then. Yeah, go ahead and check the end play on the cams and we'll go from there. Alright, so I've had these lifters soaking in here for a couple hours. I went ahead and I just flipped them over, and I'm just going to roll on them a little bit. Try to get any air bubbles out of them. Now these actually, that smooth spot right there, that actually aligns your lifters and keeps them located. So I'm just kind of screwing these in here for right now, getting them squared away, and then I'll put a little Loctite on these. All right, let's get this thing together. All right, she is back together. Gonna go ahead and roll it over. I spun it over as you saw by hand. Just go ahead and roll it over, get some oil circulated. Throw some plugs in and fire it up. So that first start I did, it was making more noise. So just let it sit for I don't know, like 2 minutes or something, and then just fired it back up. A little bit less noise, and it's definitely isolated, I think, just to the push rods. Just the lifter's just not fully, pipe's hot. The lifter's just not fully pumped up yet. So yeah, it'll get there. So far sounds pretty good though. You can go ahead and play around with the ignition, and then the obviously the jets and stuff. We'll get there though. Alright guys, so that wraps it up for the Sportster. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it was pretty straightforward. The job itself is not too terribly bad. It's just take your time, do a lot of checks, take your measurements, measure your clearances and whatnot, and you'll get there. So if you haven't already, definitely pick up a service manual for the bike. That'll help you along the way. I'll put a link in the bottom to a climber manual that I was using. And beyond that, there were some additional tweaks that we had to make to the bike. One being fuel, of course. When you add more air in the engine, you need to match it with fuel. So I went ahead and I stepped it from a 180 to a 195 main jet. That being, it was okay with a 190, but I just wanted a little bit extra safe. And then we kept a 48 Pilot, which I already had for, you know, compensating with the 1200 there. And then the timing, because it's an 883 module, it has a little bit more advanced built in. So I went ahead and I had to retard the timing a little bit more to keep it in the safe range, to keep it from detonating. So I didn't really show anything, but I went out and tuning this bike. I did a bunch of plug chops and just checking the timing strap and whatnot, and just being really safe with it. So in the future, this thing might get some more upgrades, such as like a full aftermarket ignition and supported heads. But when that time comes, we'll probably go ahead and have this thing like dyno tuned and just make sure everything is perfect. So for right now though, this thing makes great power. It's a lot of fun to ride, and the customer should enjoy it. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.